Coming up, multiple school districts announced they will make a return to virtual learning due to an increase in COVID illnesses in staff and students.
One more day of mild January weather before we turn our attention to a big cold front that could even bring us a little bit of snow. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, Missouri lawmakers prepare to redraw congressional district maps across the state. We'll let you know what their plan is and if anything will change.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Bronte Sorotsky. Michael, you said we still got some mild weather for a little bit, but
today's going to be great. Today's going to be great, but I tell you what, the first thing that caught my attention this morning was the national map indicating a whole bunch of winter storm warnings all the way from the upper plains to the Canadian border. Now, we're able to escape those so far. No worries. This little system right here that's mostly rain up in north central Missouri, spreading into Iowa, it's going to jut off east of the Mississippi. What we're going to pay attention to for this afternoon and all the way through tomorrow is what generates up at the Canadian border. That being said, we're off to a gorgeous Thursday start, though. No worries on the Skywatch storm tracker, with temperatures once again very widespread. This time, the west is actually throwing up some of the higher numbers. Chanute's already at 41. Joplin sits at 36. Miami at 29, and then a 10-degree difference as we've got Nevada at 39. Our weather trend for today, more sunshine and highs close to 60 degrees this afternoon. So what is the big deal? Well, it's coming tomorrow night, and once we see it begin to drop down from the north and the northwest, we're going to start with some rain and follow that up with a cold front. Right now, the majority of the snow wants to work really through central and south central Missouri. But at the same point in time, we see a little bit of it. And so we'll actually see some snowflakes here in our far northern counties. Not a whole lot of accumulation because our ground is nice and warm. But also, too, remember that 7-day forecast is going to be chilly as we head into the weekend. Bronte, temperatures only in the 30s.
Multiple school districts across the 4 states announced they will go virtual through the rest of the week due to illness in students and staff. Pittsburgh, Fort Scott, Webb City, Galena, Frontenac, and Arma are some of the latest area school districts to announce they are canceling classes or going virtual. On Tuesday, the Carthage School District announced they would transition to virtual learning through Friday.
We had 104 staff members absent yesterday morning, and it grew as the day continued. Obviously, we had a lot of kids gone also, and it had to happen. We needed to cancel school.
The superintendent says he hopes with school being closed Monday as well, they can use the 5 days away to slow the current spread of COVID-19. You can find more on how area schools are proceeding on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com, and we'll have more on the story in our next half hour. Officials with Freeman Health System say COVID cases and hospitalizations are increasing locally. At a briefing on Wednesday, Freeman's Director of Internal Medicine, Rob McNabb, noticed that the Omicron is not as severe, but is more contagious, leading to the spread. He also says the patients dealing with more severe illness are usually unvaccinated.
So looking at the 35 today, I think that the genders are pretty equally represented. I will say that the population that I'm seeing compared to what we talked about with Delta a few months ago, it's much older. I am seeing that 50 to 90 ranges.
Freeman is currently treating 35 COVID patients. Officials also say flu cases are higher than even pre-pandemic levels. As several schools deal with teacher shortages because of COVID, the Kansas State Board of Education approved a new rule making it easier to hire substitutes. The board passed a declaration allowing qualified candidates to apply for a temporary emergency authorized license, or TEAL. It'll allow anyone over the age of 18 with a high school diploma and a commitment from a school district to apply through the Kansas Department of Education. The Kansas gubernatorial election is heating up with campaign fundraising and spending hitting unusually high levels. Governor Kelly raised more cash last year and spent more than her presumed Republican opponent, Attorney General Derek Schmidt. Campaign finance reports filed this week show Kelly reported raising more than $2 million last year. Schmidt reported raising $1.6 million after launching his campaign in March. But Kelly also spent $762,000, while Schmidt spent nearly $331,000. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly last night laid out her priorities for this legislative session in the State of the State address. At the top of that list is eliminating the state's sales tax on food. She wants that accomplished by Kansas Day, January 29th. Governor Kelly is also calling for another freeze in tuition at Kansas colleges, and she wants to set aside $600 million of the state's surplus revenues in a rainy day fund. A Missouri House panel advanced a plan for redrawing the state's congressional districts that keep the current political balance in place. The map endorsed by a House panel is projected to result in 6 Republican members in the U.S. House and 2 Democrats, the same as what currently exists. Some Republicans and the state's largest anti-abortion group had urged lawmakers to adopt a map that could make it easier for Republicans to win 7 seats, but no attempt was made to do that on Wednesday. The redistricting plan is expected to be debated by the full House next week. Republican lawmakers are pushing to ban critical race theory in K-12 Missouri schools and give parents and guardians more control over what their children learn. Lawmakers pitched the bills during a state House committee hearing. Republican Representative Nick Schroer's legislation would prohibit teachers from using critical race theory, a framework for examining the effects of race and racism have on the nation's institutions. Representative Doug Ritchie's bill would allow parents and guardians to censor class materials provided to their children based on such parents' beliefs regarding morality, sexuality, religion, or other issues related to the well-being, education, and upbringing of such parent's child. Well, it's 5:07.
All right, let's go straight to the old future track here. That's a work in progress. Here, I want to point this out because we're able to extend this a little bit, our time frame. So today, remember, close to 60 degrees, sunny skies, a little southeast breeze. Now, as we get into a Friday afternoon, you see that develop up there at the top. Really not going to be on us until the nighttime hours, and it'll start as rain. But then as we push into Saturday morning, here we come sweeping down from the north. And that's when we get a little bit more widespread right there. So let's be thankful that our ground has really warmed up this week because we will have some accumulating snow. Luckily, the roads are going to be warm enough. We're probably not going to be able to support it sticking around for too long.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, the Labette women's basketball team fly out to an 8-2 start this season. Could they keep up their winning ways against Allen in their Jayhawk Conference opener? We'll tell you. Plus, many schools have decided to return to remote learning as COVID infections climb. We want to know what you think about how schools have dealt with the pandemic. And American Red Cross warns of a dangerously low blood supply. We'll have the details. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Antiquish Mall and Neo.
Labette women's basketball team, once again, one of the best in the country this season. Labette 8-2 in the first 10 games, currently ranked 4th in the national rankings. Last night, Cardinals at home against Allen. It is the Jayhawk Conference opener. Tamaya Robinson started out strong, nails the 3. Robinson 17 in the first half. She finishes with 22 as here she is again, this time to Kayla Braxton Young. Braxton Young, nice reverse. Cardinals up 3 at the half. Robinson not done yet, dishes it off to Chrissy Faison. What's Faison off the bank? What a pass. Other way now. Hallie Reed, good from long range. Her 4th triple ties it up at 39, but in the third quarter, Ishana Hunter gives Labette the spark that they need. Steele finished 7 of her 11 points come in the third quarter. Labette closes it out down the stretch, beats Allen 64-56.
The girls did a good job executing, making sure we got good shots and then, getting some timely stops at the end of the game. I think it came from our energy. Ishana Hunter had a big stretch there where she got a couple steals, couple breakaway layups. She was just playing really hard. And I think that's kind of what put us over the top. Anytime you get a win in the Jayhawk, it's a big deal. There's no bad teams in our conference, so, if you get a win, you got to go home happy.
Division I men's action SEC rivalry game between Missouri and Arkansas. And get this, Arkansas was up 49-15 at halftime. Hogs finish it out Final score 87-43. Carthage Tigers off to a hot start this season. Tigers 11-2 in those first 13 games. This time playing Carl Junction. Actually, just beat Carl Junction. Guard play has been the big key for Carthage so far. Max Templeman, he leads the team. 15.8 points per game. Joel Pugh right behind him. 15.2 points per night. And actually, he became the program's all-time three-point leader earlier this season. Don't forget about Justin Ray. He's scoring nearly 8 per night. That's a dangerous trio out on the Carthage perimeter.
It's nice that we've got Joel Pugh, Justin Ray, and Max Templeman that aren't in a fall sport, and so those guys put time in and they lived in the gym, and we kind of go as they go, and they're the catalyst to our team, and you can tell that the time they put in has paid off.
Last year, having that time as varsity players, and then coming back this year with keeping those three, it's been pretty easy to keep that rolling.
Carthage back in action on Friday. Going to be on the road against Hillcrest. You can check out our full story with the Tiger team. Just go to our sports page at KOAMnewsnow.com. This week is opening week of the playoffs in the NFL. Chiefs start things off Sunday night facing the Pittsburgh Steelers on Wild Card Weekend. Chiefs 12-5 headed into the postseason. Pittsburgh 9-7-1. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes, in just his 4th season as a starter, has already quite a bit of playoff experience. Get this, Mahomes has played 8 playoff games. He's gone 6-2, has a Super Bowl title, and learned plenty of lessons along the way.
The first thing you kind of realize is that at any moment, one play can change really the entire game. And I know it's like that in the regular season, but playoffs, it even goes to a different level. You know that one play can change. It can really end your season or keep it going. So you try to limit your mistakes as much as possible, knowing that it's going to be a battle to the very end, every single playoff game.
Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, China steps up its efforts to control the coronavirus as the Olympic Games draw near. And to check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns.
At U.S. Cellular, we know the local landscape.
5:17, indicating a great time to roll. A little weather on the 7s. Live look over 7th and Rangeline. Got up to 54 degrees yesterday at Joplin Regional Airport. We'll actually eclipse that. We'll throw up some 60s here by the time our Thursday is all said and done. Starting off right now at 36 degrees in Joplin. Our temperatures another morning of being very, very widespread. High 20s hanging down in Welch and Miami. Compare that to 41, the clubhouse leader right now in Chanute. Very, very close together throughout portions of southwest Missouri. 35, 36 degrees for the most part. But once again, you drop down here to Anderson, and the southern portion of the 4 states has been just a little bit cooler. Wind shifting, trying to eventually get a little northerly push to it. We're seeing more so from the west right now and keeping it at 5 to 10 miles per hour. We're going to gust close to 20 miles per hour, though, later on this afternoon. As far as the national perspective goes, we're going to pay attention to what's up here because it's going to play a role in our weather. And I tell you what, look at the watches and warnings that they have from the Canadian border all the way into north central Missouri right there. That's a combination of winter storm watches, wind chill warnings, special weather advisories with the amount of snow that system is going to be able to drop upon them. We're going to see some snow from it as well. Not that one. That's going to skirt off to the east of the Mississippi right there, probably roll through St. Louis. But we'll keep our eyes up to the north for the rest of the day. Highs this afternoon, like I said, close to 60 degrees right there. Wind going to shift kind of back and forth from the southeast to the north. We're going to see a whole bunch of arrows moving all afternoon long. And then overnight, partly cloudy skies with wind chills dropping once again into the 20s. So here we roll. Here's Future Track as the clouds begin to build on Friday. Top of your screen is where you'll see it begin to move in, and really not going to be upon us until we get into Friday night and mostly Saturday morning right there. So travel concerns Friday night shouldn't be too bad. But if you got to be out sometime on Saturday, here we go. We'll start with a definitive line that comes in, but then we'll begin to be more widespread there after we get past sunrise on Saturday. Accumulation numbers, farther you go to the north, the more that you're going to see. Luckily, the ground being nice and warm. And that kind of gives you a long form right there about why they have all those watches and warnings as this thing pushes down. It's pretty impressive as far as the amount of area that it covers. 7-day forecast. Cooler temperatures over the weekend as well, as we'll be in the 30s for Saturday and Sunday. And then kind of normalizing Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Tuesday and Wednesday, a little bit above where we normally be this time of year, but overnight lows still dropping below the freezing mark. Turn our attention now to the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. As COVID-19 cases rise nationwide, some school districts are concerned about returning to the classroom. Bronte giving us the list about 4 state schools that have decided to go back to the virtual learning. And in Denver, there's a push to try to briefly return to remote learning as well. Rick Salinger explains.
It's not the best time to be a student. Often their regular teachers are out with COVID-related matters, and a substitute has taken their place.
I've had 2 today, and we didn't do anything because the teachers didn't have enough time to plan.
The Denver Classroom Teachers Association is urging its members to write DPS, asking for a temporary break to remote learning in order to catch up.
It would allow for safety. It would allow for making sure that our, that educators that are out, that they could get those test results back and know whether or not they are COVID positive before having to come back in.
Estimates are that around 10% of the teachers are now out district-wide, so administrators are filling in. That includes the superintendent, Alex Marrero, who taught last week. Some classes have had to be dropped for their in-person sessions.
We've had some schools that have had to switch to remote learning. Sometimes it's 1 grade, sometimes several grades, sometimes the entire building for a temporary period, usually less than a week.
The district's emphasis is to keep kids in the classroom because it's easier to learn there.
Yeah, I feel like school's going good now, but ain't really that much subs. I ain't seen that much subs, so it should be going good.
A lesson in coronavirus and contemporary American history.
Our question for you, how should schools handle COVID-19? Should they not worry, go to remote learning, maybe a hybrid of the two, or perhaps you have another suggestion? You can connect to us via our Facebook page, KOAM News Now. Go directly to the poll, koamnewsnow.com/vote. And if you got your phone handy, we also have a QR code that you can pop a picture of it on your screen, and that'll deliver you right to the poll. We'll bring that back here a couple times during the show, so don't go scrambling for it now if you don't have it. We're going to come back. Bronte has Healthwatch right after this.
Joplin Area Fuller Center for
Topping Healthwatch this morning, a Centers for Disease Control and Prevention forecast published Wednesday predicts there could be more than 62,000 new coronavirus deaths over the next 4 weeks. That could mean an average of 2,624 deaths per day, significantly less than a year ago. But deaths have been going up since January 5th. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky says she thinks the recent jump in COVID deaths is still because of the Delta variant, not the Omicron variant. According to data from Johns Hopkins University, the virus has killed more than 842,000 people in the U.S. so far. Vermont is launching a new COVID-19 free test program. Starting Wednesday, people in Vermont can order the at-home rapid tests online. The launch is actually phase 1 of the project, which will help administrators test out the system. 350,000 tests will be delivered during the first phase. Vermont's governor says each order includes a total of 4 tests. Orders will be limited to 1 per household and will take 1 to 2 weeks for delivery. The state program is a supplement to the federal effort to make rapid tests more available across the country. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports drug overdose deaths have reached a new record high. More than 101,000 people died of an overdose in the U.S. between June 2020 and June 2021. That's nearly 21% higher than a year earlier. 2/3 of those deaths were caused by synthetic opioids such as fentanyl. Substances such as cocaine and methamphetamine accounted for about 30%. But all but 5 states saw an increase year after year. Vermont was the hardest hit with an increase as high as 55%. As COVID-19 hospitalizations rates surge across the country, the American Red Cross and other groups say the U.S. blood supply is dangerously low. Mandy Gaither has more on what's causing the supplies to be depleted and how you can help.
A new record high in the U.S. More COVID-19 hospitalizations than at any other point in the pandemic. And as those in healthcare scramble to care for these patients, another danger lurks: dangerously low life-saving blood supplies.
The crisis is the worst we've seen in over a decade.
The American Red Cross says several factors, including surging COVID-19 cases, severe winter storms, declines in donor turnover, turnout, blood drive cancellations, and staffing problems have all led to shortages across the U.S.
We are challenged to collect enough blood to meet hospital needs, and sometimes up to 25% of a hospital's need might not be met.
Some blood centers across the country reporting less than a day's supply of certain types of blood, causing major surgeries for some patients to be postponed.
We encourage everyone who is healthy and feeling well to roll up their sleeves and make an appointment. We require masks of all of our staff and our donors and anyone associated with a blood drive, so the donation process is very safe.
If you're interested in donating blood, you can find a blood drive close to you or make an appointment through the American Red Cross app, online at redcrossblood.org, or you can call 1-800-RED-CROSS. Coming up in the 6 o'clock show, we'll have an exclusive interview with Paul Lyle from the American Red Cross, who will have more details on how you can help. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Temperatures at 528 on this Thursday morning, range anywhere from the high 20s to the low 40s, so second consecutive day that we're very spread out in the early morning hours. Weather trend eventually going to lift us up close to 60 degrees. Can't beat that. Now, we know there's a big winter storm coming, especially for the north central plains, and we'll feel the effects of it here Friday night into Saturday morning. We'll start with rain before it flips on over to snow, and talk about our weekend temperatures when we come back right after this.
PTSD isn't something.
Coming up, multiple school districts announced they will make a return to virtual learning due to an increase in COVID illnesses in staff and students.
One more day of quiet weather throughout the Midwest before a large storm system makes its way in from the north. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, Missouri lawmakers prepare to redraw congressional district maps across the state. We'll let you know what their plan is and if anything will change.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Bronte Sorotsky. So Michael, we're saying we've been kind of mild, but a change is on the way.
Changes are a-coming, Miss Sorotsky. Changes are a-coming. Now, you're exactly right. For the time being on this Thursday morning, everything through the Midwest relatively quiet. What we're going to see happen is this storm system that generated off the Pacific Northwest going to make its way with the jet stream, kind of hang out in Canada, and then drop down upon not only us, but it could make its way into the deep south here by the time we get to the MLK holiday on Monday. That being said, no worries on this Thursday morning. Clear skies, all the precipitation out to the east, kind of headed towards St. Louis right now. We're ranging anywhere from about, say 25 to 41. Another day of widespread morning temperatures. 36 in Joplin and in Lamar. That 41's hanging out in Chanute. Let's roll 30 in Miami and then go due north. You've already got a 40 in Fort Scott. We'll throw up some 60s here this afternoon. It's going to be great January weather, but we know that Friday night is when the changes begin to occur, and we'll keep all eyes up to the far north throughout the rest of today and Friday morning. Now, we shouldn't have to worry about it as far as even the Friday evening commute, because anything that we do see up to the north should just remain as rain to begin with. That changes early Saturday morning. Got a line of snow that begins to work down, and we're far from being over, as this right here after sunrise on Saturday is going to fall down on us as well. We will have some snow accumulation by the time Saturday is done. Ground should be warm enough that we shouldn't have too many travel impacts, especially if we can keep it as snow. But the farther south you get, then you start to turn that into some freezing rain. So if you have weekend plans and you're going to be on the road, let's pay attention to how this develops after it moves through us as well.
Thanks, Michael. Officials with Freeman Health System say COVID cases and hospitalizations are increasing locally. At a briefing on Wednesday, Freeman's Director of Internal Medicine, Rob McNabb, noted that the Omicron is not as severe, but is more contagious, leading to the spread. He also says the patients dealing with more severe illness are usually unvaccinated.
So looking at the 35 today, I think that the genders are pretty equally represented. I will say that the population that I'm seeing compared to what we talked about with Delta a few months ago, it's much older. I am seeing that 50 to 90 ranges.
Freeman is currently treating 35 COVID patients. Officials say flu cases are higher than even pre-pandemic levels. Many area schools have gone virtual for the remainder of the week due to COVID-19 cases in students and staff, while some remain in person. KOAM spoke with area schools about the rising cases and has more on schools closing and remaining open. School districts across the 4 states are facing the tough decision to temporarily go back to virtual learning. The Carthage School District announced Monday night they would be transitioning virtually for the rest of the week.
We anticipated numbers to increase once we return from Christmas break. It's just an obvious thing. However, the numbers of being quarantined and positive cases just were higher than we anticipated.
They weren't alone in this decision. Other 4-state schools like Miami, Commerce, and Grove will be virtual for the remainder of the week. Grove Public Schools sent us a statement that reads in part, "We decided to transition to distance learning due to a high volume of sick students, 94 of which are COVID-related. We are also experiencing a high volume of sick teachers, 6 to 7 at each site, and not enough substitutes to cover classes." While schools like Carthage have decided to go virtual due to cases in the school district, other school districts like McDonald County say they haven't yet met the numbers needed to go virtual.
As normal as it can get during these situations. We're still doing in-school learning. We do have some issues with several people and kids being out of school due to sickness and other things. But as it stands right now, as we're talking, we're still in-school learning. The Joplin School District announced on their Facebook page to stay open for the time being, stating approximately 16% of our students and 11% of our staff are absent for various reasons. So far, the district has been able to readjust classes and remain open. Because the number of COVID, flu, and other illnesses is evolving, our plan could change. I'm Bronte Sorotsky for KOAM News. We'll have a full list of area schools that are open and closed on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. A Missouri House panel advanced a plan for redrawing the state's congressional districts that keep the current political balance in place. The map endorsed by a House panel is projected to result in 6 Republican members in the U.S. House and 2 Democrats, the same as what currently exists. Some Republicans and the state's largest anti-abortion group had urged lawmakers to adopt a map that could make it easier for Republicans to win 7 seats. But no attempt was made to do that on Wednesday. The redistricting plan is expected to be debated by the full House next week. Republican lawmakers are pushing to ban critical race theory in K-12 Missouri schools and give parents and guardians more control over what their children learn. Lawmakers pitched the bills during a state House committee hearing. Republican Representative Nick Schroer's legislation would prohibit teachers from using critical race theory, a framework for examining the effects of race and racism and what they have on the nation's institutions. Representative Doug Ritchie's bill would allow parents and guardians to censor class materials provided to their children based on such parents' beliefs regarding morality, sexuality, religion, or other issues related to the well-being, education, and upbringing of such parent's child. Now here's Michael with a look at your forecast.
All the way up to the 60s later on this afternoon. We're anywhere from about 25 to 41 right now, but we're going to make it all the way up to 60. Whole lot of sunshine, mild January day before the big changes occur late Friday night, mainly Saturday morning. We start with rain before it turns into snow.
That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. We'll introduce you to a man who came out of retirement to become a bus driver. We'll tell you why in just a little bit. Plus, Quebec has pitched an idea to tax those still unvaccinated against the coronavirus. But does the Canadian Prime Minister feel the same way? We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Here at Show Me Window.
Topping World Watch, Buenos Aires is experiencing 2 uncomfortable situations at the same time: a summer heat wave and power outages. Some 700,000 customers were left without power, affecting homes, businesses, traffic lights, and public transport, as parts of the metro system were interrupted. On Tuesday, Buenos Aires saw temperatures as high as 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's only expected to get worse over the weekend, with temperatures reaching 99 degrees. China is battling to contain the Omicron variant ahead of the Beijing Winter Games. The city of Tianjin, near Beijing, started a second round of mass testing Wednesday after reports of about 36 new COVID cases. The government has placed several areas with community spread under strict lockdown. Most trains to Beijing are banned, and travel to the city is being strictly controlled. The Spanish government will gather a commission of experts Thursday to set a maximum price for the sale of COVID-19 antigen tests in pharmacies to prevent price gouging. The initiative comes following a holiday season in which the lack of tests became a problem for consumers amid high demand. There were also several reports of these tests being sold at prices much higher than normal by non-pharmacy vendors. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Wednesday he is not ready to endorse Quebec's plan to tax the unvaccinated. He says he needs to know more about the plan before he can decide whether to support the idea. Travis Danraj has more.
For people who continue to hesitate or to choose not to get vaccinated, they are losing privileges.
The Prime Minister today forceful once again. Pressure will continue to build on those that haven't gotten the shot. Justin Trudeau not ruling out an idea floated by Quebec's Premier to tax the unvaccinated.
This Quebec proposal is something that obviously everyone is paying attention to right now, but there are still many details to know, and the details will be important in how this works.
Details of the proposed fee or tax are unclear right now, but even the idea is causing some civil liberties groups and ethicists concern.
I think punitive and intended to be a way to compel people to be vaccinated. I've heard lots of public health experts talk about the need to kind of build trust and meet people where they are.
It's ethically problematic. I mean, what would make it more ethical is if the vaccines were an absolute firewall. If a person was vaccinated, they were not going to transmit it and they were not going to occupy an ICU bed, but that's not the case.
Still, hospitalizations in Quebec continue to rise. Nearly 3,000 with 263 in intensive care, most unvaccinated. Over 85% of the population has at least one shot, but there are legal questions about implementing a financial penalty to get that number up even further.
I think the first one is whether it would violate the charter. And if a province were to enact a vaccine mandate, that would immediately trigger Section 7 of the charter.
Saskatchewan's premier and Ontario's top doctor are also weighing in.
If Quebec wants to look at whether or not they can do that, which the premier indicated yesterday, they're free to look into that. We're not doing that here.
It's not one that we would bring forward. It does, in my mind, seem punitive.
The Prime Minister would not say if he would look at the possibility of implementing a similar policy federally. And so far, no other province has come out in support of Quebec's proposal.
A new rain frog was discovered in Panama and was named after environmentalist Greta Thunberg. The discovery was published in the scientific journal Sukies. According to the study, the rain frog has distinctive black eyes unique to Central American rain frogs. Scientists say the habitat of the new frog, Greta Thunberg, is threatened due to climate change and deforestation. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world, and now let's toss it over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Bronte. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page in our morning Insta poll, a possible return to remote learning for students. Earlier in the show, we talked about some four-state schools: Pittsburgh, Fort Scott, Webb City, Galena, Frontenac, Arma, making the return to virtual or remote learning due to staffing and student illnesses brought on by COVID-19. And not just the four states, you have schools across the nation contemplating the same measures. Take, for example, Denver, Colorado. Teachers Association recently reached out to its members to contact the Denver public school system and ask them for a temporary break from in-school learning due to many regular teachers dealing with COVID infections. And you've even had teachers unions like that in Chicago calling for their union members not to go to school, essentially call it a sick out, if you will. Our question for you this morning is, how should schools handle COVID-19? Right now, 54% of you say go back to the remote learning. 39% are saying don't worry about it. 7% of you have another solution in mind. A couple ways to reach us each and every morning. Number one, there's our Facebook page. Number two, you can go directly to the poll, koamnewsnow.com/vote. Number three, if you have your phone handy, there is our QR code. Now, if you'll just snap a picture of it, and each time we do the poll, we'll try to bring it back, so no need to go scrambling for it. But if you would like to take a picture of the QR code when you see it pop up, it will also deliver you to our morning Insta poll. We'll be back with the news you need to know before you head out the door right after this.
Hey guys.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The U.S. Supreme Court has upheld an Oklahoma appellate court decision that the High Court's landmark McGirt ruling on criminal jurisdiction in Indian country does not apply retroactively to state convictions that are finalized. The High Court rejected the appeal of Clifton Parrish, who argued the state did not have jurisdiction over him. Parrish is a member of the Choctaw Nation and was convicted in state court of a killing that happened on land within the tribe's historic reservation. Multiple school districts across the 4 states announced they will go virtual through the rest of the week due to illness in students and staff. Pittsburgh, Fort Scott, Webb City, Galena, Frontenac, and Arma are some of the latest area school districts to announce they are canceling classes or going virtual. On Tuesday, the Carthage School District announced they would transition to virtual learning through Friday. Moving to a new country, even if only for school, can be a scary experience. So Pitt State made sure new students had a warm welcome. The university put together a big display at the Joplin Airport for international students arriving for the new semester, and a banquet back on campus. Officials say 70 international students from 18 countries are attending this semester. Another kind of student is also at Pitt State this week. Sales professionals in the woodworking industry are in town for Wood Tech Boot Camp. It draws in people from all across the country, even some from Canada. The camp is designed to compress a semester's work of courses into a week to train people on the latest machinery and techniques. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
10 minutes till the top of the hour on this Thursday morning as we take a live look over 7th and Rangeline. Comfortable 36 degrees, not too bad for the middle of January by any means whatsoever. A little bit of a wind chill in effect as it feels like it's 30 right now in Joplin. Chanute's been our clubhouse leader, chiming in at 41 degrees. Let's roll 29 in Miami. And southern temperatures much lower than our northern temperatures. Fort Scott and Nevada up to 41 degrees as well. Wind arrows are going to shift back and forth all day. We see a little bit of southwesterly flow beginning to work right along I-44 right there. Compared to the northwest, arrows coming in there in the northern part of southeast Kansas are going to have some gusts of 20 miles per hour here for the afternoon, but no worries on the Skywatch storm tracker. Of course, we're anticipating the growth of a big winter storm up by the Canadian border that is going to drop a fair amount of snow for the upper plains. It'll deteriorate a little bit as it works toward us, but at the same time, we will still get rain and snow from it. This thing's got the chance to actually push all the way down to portions of perhaps even Nashville before it makes a U-shape and then comes back up toward the northeastern section of the United States. And that's why we see everything from winter storm warnings to wind chill warnings to special weather advisories ranging from the border all the way into north central Missouri. None in effect for us right now, and this rain right here, that'll track through St. Louis and then disappear off to the east. A 7-day forecast that is going to bring us, cooler temperatures next week. But more importantly, let's dive in and see what we've got cooking here on Friday and Saturday. We'll start with our future track before we get into the national picture. Thursday and Friday, pretty smooth sailing, whether it be for the morning commute or the evening commute, because it really won't be until Friday night until we see it begin to emerge up from the north. As it begins as rain, and then early Friday and early Saturday morning, we flip on over to snow right there. Could anywhere see pockets of 2 inches of accumulation before it's all said and done. So if you got to be out on the road Saturday morning, that's what we're going to be tracking and eyeballing there. And if you got to go down to the south, then even got a chance to run into some freezing rain down there. We'll be back right after this.
Want the best new looks?
With many Maine school districts struggling to find enough school bus drivers, one man decided to come out of retirement to help. Meet Jerry Jalbert.
My friends all said, "What do you think you're doing? You're going to be on a bus with 50 screaming kids," and it's not like that. The kids are Great.
Jerry Jalbert was previously working as a tax consultant. Before that, he was the mayor of South Portland in 2014. Now, he's behind the wheel of a school bus in Yarmouth.
The hard part was learning the difference between driving my own personal vehicle to a 40-foot long bus.
Jalbert says he enjoys having summers and major holidays off and getting to know the students, comparing the relationship with their school bus driver to a teacher.
Except bus drivers have one huge advantage over teachers. We, as bus drivers, don't assign homework.
Jalbert does field trips, sports games, and has learned all the routes so he can fill in when needed, which the transportation director says has been a big help.
During COVID, you can have people out at any time, so it's sometimes several, so it's nice to have the extra people.
The U.S. Department of Education announced at the beginning of the year that they are giving states the option of waiving the portion of the CDL skills test that requires applicants to identify the under-the-hood engine components. And American Rescue Plan funds can be used to recruit and retain staff. These waivers do expire at the end of March.
We'll be back with another look at your weather forecast.
Anywhere from 28 to 41 degrees, eventually pushing up close to 60 this afternoon. Now, coming up here in just a little bit, we're going to talk about weekend snow. We'll be right back.
Coming up, multiple school districts announced they will make a return to virtual learning due to an increase in COVID illnesses in staff and students.
One more day of above average January temperatures before all eyes turn to the north with a big storm system moving in. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, Missouri lawmakers prepare to redraw congressional district maps across the state. We'll let you know what their plan is and if anything will change.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Bronte Sorotsky. Okay, Michael, we're talking about this colder weather, this winter weather on the way. You say it's a coming?
Blame Canada, Bronte.
Oh.
Blame Canada. Yeah, that's where it's all going to formulate up here. We've yet to see a whole lot of action, but by the time we get into the afternoon, that storm system is going to start right here and drop through the northern plains. Now, for the most part, the only thing close to us on this Thursday morning is actually going to roll through St. Louis. We don't even have any cloud cover to worry about. We are clear as can be. Wide range of temperatures, 29s down to the south and out to the west. And then we've got a 41 sticking out in Chanute. Joplin sits at 36. Let's roll 37 in Lamar. Going to make it up close to 60 degrees today with a whole lot of sunshine. We will have some southeasterly gusts of 20 miles per hour. Now, let's talk about what's going to drop in on us. Won't be here until Friday night. Shouldn't have any effect on any of our travel plans for Thursday or really majority of Friday. But by the time we get into late Friday, early Saturday morning, we begin to see it start with the rain, and then we're going to flip on over to snow pre-sunrise. And that's going to last all through Saturday morning as well. We get little spots right here where that darker purple sticks out. That's going to be some pretty heavy snow. Now, it looks like the majority of the freezing rain is going to stay down to our far southeast. But if you do have Saturday plans that are going to take you down I-49, you need to keep your eye on that. Ground should be pretty warm, so our travel concerns probably going to be fairly limited, but we are going to have colder temperatures over the weekend as well, as we'll be back down to the 30s for Saturday and Sunday.
Thanks, Michael. As several schools deal with teacher shortages because of COVID, the Kansas State Board of Education approved a new rule making it easier to hire substitutes. The board passed a declaration allowing qualified candidates to apply for a temporary emergency authorized license, or TEAL. It'll allow anyone over the age of 18 with a high school diploma and a commitment from a school district to apply through the Kansas Department of Education. The Kansas gubernatorial election is heating up with campaign fundraising and spending hitting unusually high levels. Governor Kelly raised more cash last year and spent more than her presumed Republican opponent, Attorney General Derek Schmidt. Campaign finance reports filed this week show Kelly reported raising more than $2 million last year. Schmidt reported raising $1.6 million after launching his campaign in March. But Kelly also spent $762,000, while Schmidt spent only $331,000. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly last night laid out her priorities for this legislative session in the State of the State address. At the top of the list is eliminating the state's sales tax on food. She wants that accomplished by Kansas Day, January 29th. Governor Kelly also calling for another freeze in tuition at Kansas colleges, and she wants to set aside $600 million of the state's surplus revenues in a rainy day fund. A Missouri House panel advanced a plan for redrawing the state's congressional districts that keep the current political balance in place. The map endorsed by a House panel is projected to result in 6 Republican members in the U.S. House and 2 Democrats, the same as what currently exists. Some Republicans and the state's largest anti-abortion group had urged lawmakers to adopt a map that could make it easier for Republicans to win 7 seats. But no attempt was made to do that on Wednesday. The redistricting plan is expected to be debated by the full House next week. Republican lawmakers are pushing to ban critical race theory in K-12 Missouri schools and give parents and guardians more control over what their children learn. Lawmakers pitched the bills during a state House committee hearing. Republican Representative Nick Schroer's legislation would prohibit teachers from using critical race theory, a framework for examining the effects race and racism have on the nation's institutions. Representative Doug Ritchie's bill would allow parents and guardians to censor class materials provided to their children based on such parents' beliefs regarding morality, sexuality, religion, or other issues related to the well-being, education, and upbringing of such parent's child. Multiple school districts across the 4 states announced they will go virtual through the rest of this week due to illness in students and staff. Pittsburgh, Fort Scott, Webb City, Galena, Frontenac, and Arma are some of the latest area school districts to announce they are canceling classes or going virtual. On Tuesday, the Carthage School District announced they would transition to virtual learning through Friday.
We had 104 staff members absent yesterday morning, and it grew as the day continued. Obviously, we had a lot of kids gone also, and it had to happen. We needed to cancel school.
The superintendent says he hopes with school being closed Monday as well, they can use the 5 days way to slow the current spread of COVID-19. You can find more on how area schools are proceeding on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com, and we'll have more on this story in our next half hour. And it is 6:07.
Temperatures eventually going to end up around 60 degrees later on today, and while everybody's out enjoying that, please know that the Skywatch Weather Center is paying attention to the Canadian border, where we've got a winter storm that's brewing. It will begin its north to south track really late tonight, and we won't have to worry about it until Friday night into Saturday morning, but that thing is going to end up dropping some snow on us from 60 degrees on Thursday to snow on Saturday.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, the American Red Cross comes by to talk about how they need your help to ensure everyone who needs blood transfusions receives them. Plus, American Cancer Society's report is out on which cancer has decreased. Stick around and we'll tell you which one. And thanks to inflation, cost of living keeps rising from groceries to rent. Stick around and we'll have the latest report on how much it's going to keep going up. You're watching the KOAM Morning News, more real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Nothing puts your
Prices for everyday goods are on the rise and some items are in short supply. Danya Bacchus explains.
A trip to the grocery store can be a case of feast or famine. Many shelves are full, but others are empty.
Some of the cereals were missing.
Some of the pasta.
Salsa.
Omicron infections are putting more stress on the already fragile supply chain.
Because of warehouse shortages, because of truck driver shortages, companies are either shipping partial orders, not shipping orders at all.
And items that are in stock often cost more.
Prices are off the charts.
A government report shows beef prices are up 18%. Eggs are 11% more. And it's not only food. Just about everything we buy, from used cars to furniture, is more expensive. At the gas pump, prices jumped almost 50% in 1 year.
So you have a smaller car.
I have a very small car, and it's almost, $60 to fill it up.
Experts believe the prices will remain high in the coming months. The chairman of the Federal Reserve says he may raise interest rates to slow inflation.
We will use our tools to support the economy and a strong labor market
and to prevent higher inflation from becoming entrenched.
In the near term, prices remain high.
CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger says action from the Fed could eventually rein in prices.
March, things should start to come down and slide throughout the rest of the year.
But right now, consumers will continue to pay more. Danya Bacchus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
All three major stock indexes ended Wednesday with modest gains. The Dow rose 38 points, the Nasdaq gained 34, the S&P 500 added 13. Delta Airlines is the first major company to report its fourth quarter earnings later this morning. Tomorrow, earnings season really gets rolling with results from financial giants JP Morgan, Chase, and Citigroup. Nearly 500,000 acres of ocean off the coast of New York and New Jersey is going up for auction. The Biden administration is holding its first offshore wind auction next month, looking for bidders who want to build wind farms. The energy produced is expected to power nearly 2 million homes. Dawn is out with a new soap bottle designed to make dishwashing quicker and easier, especially as the bottle is running out of soap. Called the Easy Squeeze, the redesigned bottle is inverted and has a patented no-flip cap technology. A self-sealing valve protects against leaks. Dawn's parent company, Procter & Gamble, says it spent more than 5 years developing the bottle, making it one of the most researched products in the company's history. That's it for Consumer Watch. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. We are so fortunate enough to have Paul Lyle of the American Red Cross with us back in studio. Paul, number one, thank you for your time. Number two, it's a pleasure to see you again.
And it's always a pleasure to see you and the good folks here at KOAM and Fox 14.
We don't have to do this remotely, and we're fortunate that Paul is here for more reasons than one. Paul, I want to jump into your role with the American Red Cross because just recently we now find ourselves in the middle of what's being called a national blood crisis. Not a shortage.
No, it's a crisis.
We are calling this a crisis. If we could start with the how. How did we get here?
Well, most of it's due to COVID. Like everything else, it's turned our lifestyle upside down. People who've had it, who are suffering through it, can't give because of contact tracing. They're not allowed to give blood, for a certain amount of time. Then we have the problem of, look, half of our staff at any one time, 30 to 40% of the Red Cross staff, either because they've had it or contact tracing, can't go to work. When we had the national lockdown, kids are learning at home, people aren't working in their office. Well, who's going to take care of them?
We're not going to blood drives.
Yeah, they're staying home with their kids, and you can't do a blood drive remotely. You have to have hands-on. Thousands of blood drives were canceled. A lot of corporate drives were canceled because people weren't in their offices. University drives canceled, high school drives canceled because they simply weren't there. And we find ourselves down nearly 50% in blood donations. And you've got to keep blood coming in. Blood has an expiration date on it. Whole blood can be kept for about 2 months, then it can't be used. Frozen blood products can be kept longer, but you need it for every operating procedure in the world. They have to have it. You watch the medical shows, they said first thing to do, get a blood sample, type and cross match. Got to have blood supplies.
How do we dig ourselves out of this hole?
Well, we dig ourselves out of the hole by just increasing the number of donations, people coming forward. COVID's going to be with us for a long time. I don't think we're going to get rid of it. It's going to be like the flu. We might have to have annual booster shots. That won't prevent you from giving blood, but it has physically affected people. Hemoglobin counts are down. We're deferring more people when they come into glove. Sorry, your red cell count is too low and you can't give this time. So we just encourage more people to come out and give.
If I have had COVID in the past, let's do a hypothetical.
Sure.
Is it safe for me to donate?
Yes.
What's the time? What do I need to know if I want to get back out? I've been a donor in the past, but now I'm apprehensive. But now I want to get back out and do it. What's
Not
my
a
time
problem.
frame?
If you've had COVID, there 5 or 10 day period after that, come on in and give blood. As long as you're not symptomatic, come in, please, and give blood. It's
and like
not
Paul
a
says,
problem.
they do the hemoglobin test. You're going to know right away. So our goal here is, folks, to get new donors out as well. Not only those of you, we want those of you returning who have done it in the past, but we need new donors. What is the best elevator speech that I can give to somebody to encourage them to participate?
Well, what we tell people is, look, At some point in time, 1 out of every 3 people in this country is going to need blood. Everybody knows somebody that has had to have it at one point in time. So come on out, you may be apprehensive, it doesn't hurt, and you'll be saving 3 lives with each blood donation. Every pint of blood saves 3 lives.
For anybody out there who hasn't been through it before and is unfamiliar with the process, they're not going to believe me. I donate.
Yes.
Explain the process and how painless and easy it is.
Look, you come in, if you've been there before, you have your little Red Cross card, we scan it in. You can do everything online now. You sit down, they'll take your temperature, they'll test your hemoglobin, you get on one of the...
That's a finger prick, folks.
That's a little
it's
finger
a finger prick,
yeah.
That's all it is.
And they just watch and see how quickly it goes down. It takes about 15 minutes. It doesn't hurt. It really doesn't.
And honestly, they put you on an inclined table and you sit there and you squeeze a ball.
Squeeze a little ball.
15 minutes. Yeah. Okay, upcoming donation sites and events.
All right.
Now that you've got us convinced, we know there's a national blood crisis. Let's take the step forward. How do we participate?
Well, next week, on Wednesday and Thursday, we have our annual Battle of the Badges blood drive.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, this is where the police and fire department make chili. They bring it in. All of our donors and the Red Cross staff vote on which one they like better. And we give them T-shirts. As a matter of fact, this is one from last year, which I will give to you,
Oh, bless
Michael.
you.
I haven't seen this year's yet, but they're good. And as a little incentive this year, we've got something kind of incredible. One of the players of the National Football League donated Super Bowl tickets.
What?
Yep. And we've got airfare, hotel accommodations. Listen, VIP passes to the NFL tailgate party. And one lucky blood donor who gave blood just during the month of January is going to get this package. Now, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be somebody locally, but your odds are a lot better than winning Powerball.
I tell you what, you got to participate to even have a chance.
You got that right.
And this is all put through the American Red Cross.
Through the Red Cross. So every blood donor during the month of January is automatically registered into that drawing.
Okay, so we've got Burgers and Badges coming up in Joplin, but there's a number of other drives and hopefully even more in the future as your staff become healthier. Is there a place online, is there an online resource where we can find that?
It's redcrossblood.org. Again, redcrossblood.org. Go on there, type in your zip code wherever you live, and it will show you all the upcoming drives. And you can do it with a 5-mile radius, 10-mile, 25-mile radius, and then you can sign up right then and there.
So I think our key factors and our takeaways are, number one, even if you have had COVID in the past, it is safe for you to go donate. Number two, for those of you who have thought about it, it is now time to make the move, take the plunge, and help relieve this national blood crisis.
Yes, and there's one more thing.
Absolutely.
And this is the thing that is most fulfilling to me, that warms my heart, are first-time donors. People who come in, and I always ask them, how did you hear about it? What motivated you? 9 out of 10 of them say, I saw something on television, and it might not have been this week or last week, and I'm coming in for the first time. Well, I keep track. And since we've been doing this, 40 new donors. Those 40 donors now, more than half of them have been repeat donors.
That is excellent.
That means more than 100 lives saved. And it's all due to the efforts of KOAM and Fox 14. So on behalf of the Red Cross, I'm giving you a 5-gallon pin. And every time you look at that, say, we've saved over 100 lives and counting.
Paul, wow, thank you. And for those of you that let's do the math, folks. You go take 20 minutes of your day, save 3 lives.
Yeah.
Think about that. Put that in perspective. 20 minutes of your day saves 3 lives. Paul Lyle of the American Red Cross. Next time I talk to you, we're not going to talk about a national blood crisis. We're going to talk about the success that you've had in saving people's lives.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, a new report from the American Cancer Society shows major progress against the leading cause of cancer death in the U.S., lung cancer. Naomi Rukum has more.
Jill Fine came home from a trip in 2018 with wheezing and shoulder pain. Tests revealed stage 3 lung cancer.
I did smoke, I admit that, but thank God I don't anymore. But I was seriously at my age shocked to hear the word cancer.
Treatment included surgery to remove 2/3 of her lung and surgery on her airway.
4 rounds of chemo after that, and then a year of immunotherapy. It was quite a journey, I have to say, but I am so grateful and so lucky.
A new American Cancer Society report finds lung cancers are being diagnosed earlier and patients are living longer. Dr. Karen Knudsen credits increased access to care, screening, and better treatments.
While we know that not all lung cancers are associated with smoking, a significant fraction are. We are starting to see some progress, however, based on tobacco cessation for the heavy smoking population. It is possible to get into a screening program to detect lung cancer at an earlier stage.
The U.S. continues to see a significant reduction in cancer deaths overall. This year, it's estimated there will be 1.9 million new cancer diagnoses and more than 609,000 cancer deaths. The report also flags some concerning trends, including increased incidence of breast cancer in women and more men being diagnosed with advanced stage prostate cancer.
Cancer that has become widespread or metastatic, we still have no durable cure for that stage of disease. So for prostate cancer, it is incredibly important for us to detect early and intervene early.
Jill has been cancer-free for 2 years.
I just feel like I have a second chance at life.
She encourages others to get checked if something in their body doesn't seem right. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News.
The cancer estimates in the new report do not reflect the impact that the pandemic could have. There has been a decline in cancer screenings overall across the U.S. The American Cancer Society recommends working with your primary care doctor to develop a cancer screening plan that's right for you. That's a look at some of today's top health stories you're watching, the KOAM Morning News.
Sunny skies, temperatures around 60 degrees coming up here in just a little bit. We'll break down our Saturday forecast because snow is on the way.
Coming up, multiple school districts announced they will make a return to virtual learning due to an increase in COVID illnesses in staff and students.
Enjoy one more day of abnormally warm January weather before we talk about snow for the weekend. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, Missouri lawmakers prepare to redraw congressional district maps across the state. We'll let you know what their plan is and if anything will change.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:30. I'm Bronte Sorotsky. All right, Michael, we are talking about some changes coming to the weather finally. I know people have been kind of excited about hearing about some colder weather.
Only in the Midwest would we spend a morning talking about 60 degrees and then, snow.
Right.
Here's what we've got, Bronte. We're waiting on a system to formulate up here north of the Canadian-U.S. border. And once it does, it's going to take a north to south track. No worries, though, on this Thursday. We've got clear skies. That rain's going to hang out all the way on the other side of the Show Me State by St. Louis. And we're going to push up with 60-degree weather in the middle of January. I already sit at 41. Fort Scott, Chanute, Nevada, already there. Miami, a little bit cooler at 29, and Joplin hanging out at 36. A whole bunch of wind chills, pretty much high 20s, low 30s right now. But wait till we get to the afternoon, even with a little southeasterly breeze, clear skies, no worries in the world. Then we can talk about the stuff that's going to be on us for Friday night into Saturday morning. Really doesn't want to appear until late Friday night, so it shouldn't affect the evening commute at all. First off, the clouds begin to gather on Friday. Temperature's still not too bad, though, make it up into the 50s. And then here comes the rain that will start late Friday night into Saturday morning, and then really after sunrise on Saturday. We'll get a good shot of it here if that timing stays true, because the widespread snow will take over all the way from late Saturday morning into the early afternoon hours. We see some pockets right there. We could see in excess of an inch of accumulation. Now our ground nice and warm coming off of our past 4 days of abnormally warm January temperatures, so hopefully shouldn't pose any travel concerns. But the farther south that you go on Saturday, pay attention to the radar, because while we won't see a lot of it here, if you got a trip planned on I-49 or I-44, we got to watch out for some patches of freezing rain.
Thanks, Michael. The U.S. Supreme Court upholds an Oklahoma appellate court decision that the High Court's landmark McGirt ruling on criminal jurisdiction in Indian country does not apply retroactively to state convictions that are finalized. The High Court rejected the appeal of Clifton Parrish, who argued the state did not have jurisdiction over him. Parrish is a member of the Choctaw Nation and was convicted in state court of a killing that happened on land within the tribe's historic reservation. As several schools deal with teacher shortages because of COVID, the Kansas State Board of Education approved a new rule making it easier to hire substitutes. The board passed a declaration allowing qualified candidates to apply for a temporary emergency authorized license, or TEAL. It'll allow anyone over the age of 18 with a high school diploma and a commitment from a school district to apply through the Kansas Department of Education. Republican lawmakers are pushing to ban critical race theory in K-12 Missouri schools and give parents and guardians more control over what their children learn. Lawmakers pitched the bills during a state House committee hearing. Republican Representative Nick Schroeder's legislation would prohibit teachers from using critical race theory, a framework for examining the effects of race and racism on the nation's institutions. Representative Doug Ritchie's bill would allow parents and guardians to censor class materials provided to their children based on such parents' beliefs regarding morality, sexuality, religion, or other issues related to the well-being, education, and upbringing of such parent's child. A Missouri House panel advanced a plan for redrawing the state's congressional districts that keep the current political balance in place. The map endorsed by a House panel is projected to result in 6 Republican members in the U.S. House and 2 Democrats, the same as what currently exists. Some Republicans and the state's largest anti-abortion group had urged lawmakers to adopt a map that could make it easier for Republicans to win 7 seats, but no attempt was made to do that on Wednesday. The redistricting plan is expected to be debated by the full House next week. Multiple school districts across the 4 states announced they will go virtual through the rest of the week due to illness in students and staff. Pittsburgh, Fort Scott, Webb City, Galena, Frontenac, and Arma are some of the latest area school districts to announce they are canceling classes or going virtual. On Tuesday, the Carthage School District announced they would transition to virtual learning through Friday.
We had 104 staff members absent yesterday morning, and it grew as the day continued. Obviously, we had a lot of kids gone also, and it had to happen. We needed to cancel school.
The superintendent says he hopes with school being closed Monday as well, they can use the 5 days away to slow the current spread of COVID-19. You can find more on how area schools are proceeding on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Moving to a new country, even if only for school, can be a scary experience. So Pitt State made sure some new students had a warm welcome. The university put together a big display at the Joplin Airport for international students arriving for the new semester and a banquet back on campus. Officials say 70 international students from 18 countries are attending this semester.
The most, I think, to discover the American culture. So the way of studying, the way of eating, everything, and I hope that everything's going to be all right.
The university also hosted a soccer game last night for the students. China is dealing with multiple COVID outbreaks, despite some of the toughest pandemic measures in the world. In some areas, officials are actually welding shut the doors of people suspected of having COVID. This all comes less than a month before the opening of the Beijing Winter Olympics. Elizabeth Palmer has more.
With a budget of nearly $4 billion, Chinese Winter Olympic venues are showstoppers. President Xi got to watch the athletes practicing last week and toured the facilities. But behind the upbeat photo op is a vast, invasive effort to stop COVID spoiling the games. Public health SWAT teams are testing 14 million people for the second time in 3 days after an Omicron outbreak in Tianjin, which is commuting distance from Beijing. One citizen posted a video showing panicked people at a market trying to stockpile food. They'd heard stories from the city of Jian, where officials had to step in and deliver meals to some residents in their second week of complete lockdown, who said they'd run out of things to eat. Also in Jian, local officials welded shut the door of a man suspected of having been exposed to the virus. Massive testing is going on in other cities too, with home visits to make sure no one slips through the cracks. And China has launched a huge booster program, offering shots to anyone over 3 years old. Authoritarian China wants a COVID-free Olympics to impress the world. Even though there won't be any foreign spectators, and all athletes will be sealed in what's meant to be a virus-free bubble. Elizabeth Palmer, CBS News.
Now let's go over to Michael with the latest look at the forecast.
It's going to be sunny skies and highs around 60 degrees on this Thursday. Now the cold front begins to settle in tomorrow afternoon, eventually brings us rain for Friday night and snow, that's right, snow for Saturday morning.
Top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. The Department of Justice is setting up a new unit to fight terrorism. We'll have more details on what people can expect from it. Plus, with Omicron spreading throughout schools, there's a lot of districts that are shutting down. Some just for the week and some turn back to online learning. How do you think schools should handle COVID-19? We let you weigh in. We'll be right back.
At US Cellular.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, the Department of Justice has launched a new unit focused on the rising threat of domestic terrorism. A top national security official told lawmakers this week that the number of FBI investigations into suspected violent extremists has more than doubled over the past 2 years. Natalie Brand has more from Washington.
Just days after the one-year anniversary of the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, the Justice Department announced it will launch a new unit focused on the rising threat of domestic terrorism.
The number of FBI investigations over the past 2 years since March 2020 has more than doubled.
Assistant Attorney General Matthew Olson said a team of attorneys will focus on the threats and make sure cases are coordinated at the federal level and across the country.
It ensures consistency, it ensures continuity, and especially it ensures that these investigations receive the priority that they deserve.
Thomas Warwick, former DHS Deputy Assistant Secretary for Counterterrorism Policy, says the new unit signals to extremists that these cases will be a priority. He believes last year's U.S. Capitol attack is one cause for the spike.
Threats to lawmakers actually are one of the most dangerous threats to American democracy.
The U.S. Capitol Police Department counted around 9,600 threats last year alone, a big concern heading into a critical midterm election year.
I think what we're going to see as we ramp up to the election in November is going to be an increased need to keep the entire process peaceful.
Warwick says threats will require a swift response from federal, state, and local law enforcement. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Washington.
The Select Committee investigating the January 6th U.S. Capitol assault sent a letter to the top Republican in the House, California Congressman Kevin McCarthy, asking him to voluntarily give information related to his contacts with former President Trump and his Chief of Staff Mark Meadows on the days surrounding the attack. The House Committee investigation into the January 6th attack continues, and it is now asking to speak with yet another high-ranking government official. But as CBS News' Laura Podesta tells us, the committee faces an extreme uphill battle in getting him to talk.
The Select Committee, looking into what happened in the lead up to January 6th, is trying to find everyone who spoke to the president about the violence that day. The most powerful Republican in the House of Representatives is who they want to hear from next. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy told CBS Evening News anchor Norah O'Donnell on that fateful day that he had called President Trump.
I've spoken to the president. I asked him to talk to the nation to tell him to stop this.
Representative McCarthy apparently does not want to repeat this conversation for the investigation, saying in a statement last night he will, quote, not participate with this Select Committee's abuse of power. The committee sent a letter to McCarthy saying it would like to discuss his conversations with Trump before, during, and after the riot. It also wants to know what he may have spoken to former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows about in the days before the attack. McCarthy is the third member of Congress the committee has recently reached out to. Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio and Representative Scott Perry of Pennsylvania have also turned down those requests. The committee has discussed possibly issuing subpoenas to lawmakers, though that would face significant legal and political challenges. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
All of this back and forth yesterday with Representative McCarthy happened as CBS News has learned former White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany was appearing before the committee in a virtual deposition. The panel, made up of 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans, has interviewed almost 350 people and issued public subpoenas to around 50 people and organizations. That's a look at today's top national stories. Now let's check back in with Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Bronte. This morning, discussing a possible return to remote learning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page in our morning Insta poll. Earlier in the show, talked about 4 state schools to the tune of Pittsburgh, Fort Scott, Webb City, Galena, Frontenac, and Arma making the return to virtual or remote learning. This is due to staff and student illnesses brought on by COVID-19. Not just the 4 states, it is schools across the nation contemplating the same measure. In Denver, the Teachers Association recently reached out to its members to contact the Denver public school system, asked them for a temporary break from in-school learning due to many regular teachers dealing with COVID infections. The same has happened with the teachers union in Chicago as well, as they staged a sick out. Our question for you this morning: how should schools handle COVID-19? Right now, 69% of you say time to go back to the old remote learning. 25% of you going with don't worry about it. 4% say maybe a mixture of both, a little hybrid, online and in the classroom. Of course, we appreciate everybody's engagement. You can contact us via our Facebook page. Go directly to the poll, koamnewsnow.com/vote, or got your camera handy, just take a picture of our QR code. And that code right there will deliver you to our Insta poll each and every morning. Once again, just grab your camera, grab your phone, go to the camera, and take a picture of that. We're going to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries here in just a minute, but first, let's go to Nate in New York City.
I'm Nate Burleson. Coming up on CBS Mornings, how a scammer's phone call turned into an unlikely friendship. Plus, what are some potential solutions to our changing climate? We'll get timely insights from former Vice President Al Gore. That's coming up on CBS Mornings.
We take this time to honor today's 4-state hero, Corporal Kenneth Hodson. The Anderson, Missouri native fought in the Korean War. We thank you, Corporal Kenneth Hodson, today's 4-state hero.
Our birthday list begins with Amix Evans, celebrating number 5. Amix, a very happy birthday to you in Columbus. And this birthday wish comes with love from Tuck and Pops.
Next in Oswego,
No, whoa.
6 years old, we got Aiden Jurgensen. Is that a fish? That is a massive thing.
Get that, Aiden.
Happy birthday, Aiden.
Get that. Straight cash. As in Cash Zimmerman. There's Cash Zimmerman. Cash celebrating the big number 7, and a happy birthday, kiddo, in McCune.
Next in Uniontown.
Oh, go up to you.
Ellie Swink Pritchett turning 12 years old.
I got him. Throw it up. There it is. Little Eagle Pride right there. Chloe Storm, a happy 14th birthday. Miss Chloe, she celebrates in Jasper.
Next, out of Seneca, Missouri, we have Aspen Elbert turning 25. And he got a special shout out from Mom, Tyler, Nanny, Liv, Ava, Amory, Boston, and the rest of your family.
A little party pick right there from Aspen. That's good. Happy birthday. Peggy Keeling, a happy birthday in Neosho. Hazel McGrew is celebrating a birthday in Crestline, and our good friend Janet Wixon, a happy 85th birthday. Miss Janet is also in Crestline.
We have Ronnie Schultz turning 74 in Columbus. Shirley Scott in Scammon, the birthday was yesterday. We're celebrating today. We have Heather Shaw out of Webb City, and we have Harold Yarbrough out of Miami.
Mr. Harold with his own screen right there. Happy birthday, Harold. A happy birthday and happy anniversary to all. Here's where you can send them in to birthdays at KOAMTV.com. You can also go to our website at KOAMNewsNow.com. Now, here's Bronte Sorotsky with a very important birthday announcement.
You can be part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. You can get special deals from local businesses. So go to KOAMNewsNow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Well, imagine you're caught in the midst of a war zone and you write a family to your mother. It just takes 76 years to arrive. That's exactly what happened with that letter that you're looking at right there. A soldier sent it to mom, just would take several decades before it showed up. An amazing story about the recovery of the letter and its new recipient. Got that story for you when we flip on over to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Temperatures right now ranging anywhere from 41 in Chanute, Fort Scott, and Nevada, 36 in Joplin, and only 27 right now in Outages to go along with 29s in both Miami and in Grove. Wind arrows are going to continue to shift all day long. Eventually, we'll get some southeasterly breeze with gusting up to 20 miles per hour. Skywatch storm tracker clear as can be as we're starting to see this begin to generate up here in Canada, because remember, that's going to be the system that drops right down toward us, and that's why you've got a number of watches and warnings. Now, while we see the farthest one south in north central Missouri, they do not involve us as of yet, so consider ourselves lucky on that aspect of it. All the rain that we see on the Skywatch storm tracker headed off towards St. Louis, we're going to make it up at 60 today. It's going to be a great looking Thursday. Friday's temperature's not too bad either, even with the increased cloud cover. And then let's do our timeline here on Future Track, because it really shouldn't affect the Friday morning commute. Definitely won't do that. I should be just anywhere from some rain up for Friday evening. It's really Friday night into Saturday morning as we see the snow begin to creep in. And then after sunrise on Saturday, a little bit more widespread accumulation numbers, anywhere from 1 to 2 inches. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The U.S. Supreme Court has upheld an Oklahoma appellate court decision that the High Court's landmark McGirt ruling on criminal jurisdiction in Indian country does not apply retroactively to state convictions that are finalized. The High Court rejected the appeal of Clifton Parrish, who argued the state did not have jurisdiction over him. Parrish is a member of the Choctaw Nation and was convicted in state court of a killing that happened on land within the tribe's historic reservation. Multiple school districts across the 4 states announced they will go virtual through the rest of the week due to illness in students and staff. Pittsburgh, Fort Scott, Webb City, Galena, Frontenac, and Arma are some of the latest area school districts to announce they are canceling classes or going virtual. On Tuesday, the Carthage School District announced they would transition to virtual learning through Friday. Moving to a new country, even if only for school, can be a scary experience. So Pitt State made sure some new students had a warm welcome. The university put together a big display at the Joplin Airport for international students arriving for the new semester, and a banquet back on campus. Officials say 70 international students from 18 countries are attending this semester. Another kind of student is also at Pitt State this week. Sales professionals in the woodworking industry are in town for a wood tech boot camp. It draws in people from all across the country, even some from Canada. The camp is designed to compress a semester's worth of courses into a week to train people on the latest machinery and techniques. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Let's go ahead and roll Future Track one more time, because after working up into the 60s later on for this Thursday, big changes on their way. Friday night into Saturday morning. It'll start as rain for Friday and then flip over to snow early Saturday morning and really take us throughout the morning hours. Cooler temperatures, obviously, on Saturday and Sunday, only seeing the 30s.
All right, and coming up today at noon, we're making ultimate grilled cheese sandwiches in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Now we're talking. The Jackie Robinson of hockey is being honored with Congress's highest civilian award. We've got that coming up on CBS Mornings. Find out how Willie O'Ree inspired generations of black hockey players.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. This morning, we're talking about the states are tackling their homelessness problems.
And also, too, don't forget about that letter that went missing for 76 years. It's an amazing story you're not going to want to miss. Also, scientists going back to the past to hopefully unlock secrets to help fight climate change. Once again, we'll have those stories and more when you flip on over with us on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Wraps it up for this Thursday. Do me a favor, enjoy the sunshine, be safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And we'll see you today at noon after the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14.
Shop huge savings